Hello and welcome to this webinar on cablabel S3. I will talk about printer drivers provided by cablabel internally and how they benefit with printing. I will introduce values to get an optimum printout, and I will also explain differences between system drivers and document drivers. So then at first we start the cablabel software. Okay, here we are. We go to configure device lists. And now it's open a display where all the drivers are displayed which are installed. On the top we have all the native devices. This means the internal drivers from cablabel. Below are the Windows drivers which are installed on the system. Windows drivers are provided only with the cablabel S3 Pro software. With the Lite package, printing is possible only with internal drivers. On the right side, we have all cap printers displayed. So as you can see, all the earlier ones, such the Apollo and the A series, but also the newest one like Squix or PXQ. All printers are displayed by an image, so it makes it easier to select the right one. We want to install in Squix for 300. Please, when you install a printer driver, pay attention to the final number 300, 200, or 600. This stands for the DPI, the resolution printable by your printer. If you select the wrong one, your printout will be too small or too large. So now we select the Squix for 300. We go to install selected devices and our printer driver pops up. Okay, so at first we have to select our port. Only types are displayed that are provided on the printer. I will install TCP later, but can also select USB and serial. If you select USB, please make sure to uncheck bidirectional on the Windows driver. With the Windows driver switched on, it installs automatically as soon as a cap printer plugs to a PC. Bidirectional means that the PC and the printer communicate with each other. Cablabel continuously asks the printer how it is doing, whether material are sufficient, if there are errors, and so on. The printer reports back to the PC. Now, with the Windows driver work bidirectional and the internal cablabel driver, this makes up 2 receptions. This would cause a communication error. This does not only concern cablabel drivers and Windows drivers, but refers to any system accessing the same port. Okay, so I enter now the IP port. Oh, so here we are. If you use a DHCP printer, you can also enter the host name here in this area. Please always use only one of this IP address or host name. Okay, so bidirectional is on. We confirm with OK, and the printer driver is installed. By a double press of the Windows on the driver, we come back to our device settings. Okay, so now we configure the values. The first parameters are the heat level and the print speed. Along with the label and the ribbon, they define the print quality. Value depends from the material in the operating. Wax ribbons require a little heat to peel off wax on a paper label. Resin ribbons requires much more heat, maybe a heat level of 5. It depends from the material. Also, high print speeds of 300 millimeters require much heat as little time remains for melting color and transfer it to a label. I recommend slow printing or moderately fast print speeds, so less heat is needed and the printhead will last longer. Okay, the next parameter is thermal transfer or direct thermal. Thermal transfer means that we are operating with a ribbon. So they are here. The ribbon is on these two rollers. Direct thermal means we have a material which prints without ribbon. So they change color simply by heat. Such labels can be identified easily. If you rub with your fingernail on a label and the label changes color, this material has been designed for direct thermal printing. It requires no ribbon. So the next is the labeled sensor. 4 types are offered. There's often misunderstanding on this method, so I like to clarify the materials. So here you see some types of material. The first one on the left you see is a label providing gaps. The label are white, not transparent. The liner is yellow-like or whitish, but basically transparent. So a sensor can verify from a gap to the next. The second you see is continuous. Textile material, shrink tubes, or cardboard would be other examples. Such materials provide no gaps, no markings, and are not transparent. In most applications, such materials are cut, so we can switch off the label sensor. Third one are translucent labels on a translucent liner. Black markings of the liner are able the sensor to verify from the button side from one marking to the next. Last is reflex top. You see a cardboard again. It provides black marking on its top side. The sensor can verify from the top. Okay, again here in cablabel, I select gap. So as it is the most common, further options such as rotating by 180 degrees, mirror label, negative label are not so much used. The next thing is we go to the tab machine, and here we see the printhead position. If settings are fine, but you want to align the imprint on a label a bit to another position, offsets can be defined. So if I insert 1 millimeter, it means that the imprint on the label will move by 1 millimeter to the right. On the epsilon position, it means that it moves up or down for 2 millimeters in this direction. The next one is the backfeed mode. We can select smart or always. Let me explain this. If a printed label is peeled off for removal, the next label has been fed already below the printhead. By selecting Smart, the label following the one removed will be already printed in parts before the liner pushes back. By selecting Always, the liner pushes back and the label following the one removed by the printer completely at once will be printed completely at once. Okay, and here we have some other options like set date and time, which will set the date and time on each label. Important sometimes is the single buffer parameter. So normally if you print a label, the printer will prepare the following labels in his memory. So, but if you will dispensing a label on which you have time or on which time is printed, you want that a printer will prepare only one label after the other. If it is so, you have to select the single buffer. Otherwise, please don't select this parameter. So because the printout gets faster then. So the next one, let us see to the printer options. In this display, all options that you can use for this printer are inset there. Common or is the tear-off plate, which is delivered with the basic device. So we can select the tear-off plate and the peel-off position can be aligned by millimeters there. Here we have also the peel-off, the I/O interface here, or we have also some, let us see, cutters. And as you can see, each option is displayed by a picture. So now we can also insert the parameters for this. So I can say that I want to cut after each label or each second label, third label. I can say that I want to cut after the batch. So it means after the last label. I can switch the first cut position for a millimeter, and if I want to have a second cut, so I can insert the distance to the first cut. These are an example for all the parameters that you can insert for this periphery. So again, we go to setup and we go now to the image output. Very helpful parameters here. So if you select 0 degrees, the printout will come in the way how the display is, the label is displayed on the. Okay, again, 0 means the label are printed as they had been set up. Rotation by 90 degrees, printing upside down or rotating by 270 degrees are other options. Such option helps if, for example, label material changes. Okay, I have set up the driver correctly and can start using it. Please note the color code. Green means the printer has been identified. Red indicates the printer is not available. Yellow indicates problems with the printer, for example, material ending, a printhead provided, or anything similar. So to print a label, I say okay, I create a new one. Make a test. Okay. Okay, test, and we go up to parameters. So that's the label. And okay, we go again back to the configure device list and from the label side out. And you see we have here now system devices where all the installed printer drivers of the systems are displayed. And we have the document devices, but now in the moment they are empty. So when we print this label now, so it's printed, and we go back to the document devices, you see that a Squix for 600 dpi is now listed. So if we are open this driver again with this button, you see that these are the settings for only this document for this printer. So if I print this label again with another printer like a PXQ or an EOS printer, this printer will also display it in this display. So this means that the parameters for this label are saved in this in the document devices, and if you if the label is printed also on another place, it will use for the same printer for the Squix 600 dpi the settings which are inserted here in this display. So I can set up the label on my desktop, put it to the production and print it there with the same parameters on each printer. Okay, the last thing we want to talk is what favor internal drivers have over Windows drivers. All CAP printers are intelligent printers. They print times, serial numbers, and calculation fields on a label autonomously. A Windows driver must create an image of every label design, place it on a label, and print it. Internal drivers simply send the initial value to the printer, tell it to print a label 100 times, add up numbers, and include the correct time. I have here an example. I made a label with a time and a counter field and printed with the Windows driver and internal driver. The label that I use here with the native driver, the printer, this is the printer language. It looks a little bit cryptic, but you see that I have insert here for the counter only the initial value and tells the printer that he should count it for its own. The same is for the date and time. I said only please print date and the time field here on this place, and then I insert a value how many labels I want to print. These are only 15 lines that I have to send to the printer. The same label printed by the Windows driver. Windows have to send up to, let me see, 4,650 lines to print the labels. So you can see the internal driver is much more faster because you have not so much traffic on the port. So select internal drivers and let the printer do all the work. So that is what I wanted to show you. I like to recommend you to visit cap.de. By selecting the support tab, you will find all documentations on the cablabel F3 Pro. In addition, there is our cablabel web log There you find postings on how to install and configure network printers and printers installed via USB. If you have any further questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact us personally. The email address is support.de@cap.de. Have a nice day. Thank you for attending. See you. Bye.